Some time ago, I was in transit in an airport in the New York area, New Jersey, or wherever, and the driver of the bus in transit was from Jamaica, and he said, "Sir, do you know what TSA stands for?" I said, "No, what does it stand for?" He said, "Thousands standing around." And we've got a story about those thousands today.
Yeah,
thousands.
Most of them passengers, may I say, waiting to get through there.
But the people, 60,000 of them. It's called the Transportation Security Administration. It is one of the biggest boondoggles that we have ever witnessed. And if you've been a traveler on the airplane, you say, what are those clowns doing?
Well, the TSA has become a major government agency, but some security experts question if we even need it. David Brody has the story from Washington.
Ever since the TSA was created after 9/11, it's had its fair share of PR problems, from patting down crying 3-year-olds in wheelchairs to distraught passengers claiming sexual harassment. And now, more problems. A new government report details poor work habits, including sleeping on the job, not reporting for work, and stealing people's bags. The misconduct involving TSA employees has increased 26% in the last 3 years. And in hearings this week, Congress was demanding answers.
TSA should have no tolerance for such behavior. The American people demand accountability.
One TSA agent was suspended after trying to carry a relative's bag through security without screening it. Inside, plenty of items that were not allowed.
Somebody bypasses the screening process, somebody takes a bag around a checkpoint, that's a serious offense. That stuff needs to be immediately corrected.
And yet the report shows that just 17% of the agents reported for misconduct are being fired. Nearly half, 47%, are only given a letter of reprimand. Congressmen say punishments have to be stricter, but TSA officials are pushing back.
A letter of reprimand means that you're not going to get a bonus that year, possibly. You're not going to get promoted. It's going to stay in your jacket. It's a serious thing, sir.
The TSA problems and its size have been growing for years. It's run by the Department of Homeland Security, and when it started 10 years ago in 2002, it had 16,000 employees and a budget of around $1 billion. Now, the TSA has close to 60,000 employees, and the budget is at almost $8 billion. James Carafano of the Heritage Foundation doesn't believe that's taxpayer money well spent.
We built this massive, huge, expensive bureaucracy post 9/11 because people wanted government security guys, when the reality is just a well-supervised security workforce in the private sector could do just as good a job.
Despite its growing size, supporters of TSA say it's trying its best to protect America from terrorist attacks. And they point to how they've gotten rid of those controversial scanners that took nude X-ray pictures of travelers. They now say they have devices that show a less intrusive image. But critics like Carafano say all the complaints are secondary to a larger issue. Should a government bureaucracy be handling these security issues?
I'm sure that a majority of the people working at TSA care about their country and want to do the right thing. But the reality is they don't need to be government employees.
But the government-run TSA seems here to stay, and that means more controversy could well be on the way. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, David. When they set it up, it was a giant make-work program for folks that the administration wanted to put on the payroll. 60,000 people now standing around, interfering with the way you fly. They don't know what they're doing. Some do. Some are very proficient, obviously. But many aren't. And many are not trained, and many are, in one of those congressional hearings, they found a supervisor who was teaching people how to steal from the passengers' luggage that was going through those
wow.
things.
I say send them to El Al and train them the professional way.
The Israelis, Terry, know how to target potential terrorists. Rest of them, they don't bother with.
We would call that profiling, I think.
That's right. But you got a little 3-year-old in a wheelchair, and then the poor child is screaming, and these people, and then these intrusive body searches are unreal. What they do to women and men, unreal. And it's a hunting ground for sexual predators. The whole thing is a mess. And it just shows the government shouldn't be doing things. And when they start doing something, it is expensive and it's inefficient. The private sector could do a whole lot better. Well, President Obama is trying to deal with the fallout from the government's domestic spying scandal. There's another big one. Lee Webb has that story from the CBN newsroom. Here's Lee.
Pat, NSA leaker Edward Snowden may be considered a traitor by some, but he certainly got the attention of Congress. And now a growing number of lawmakers seem ready to force the Obama administration to clean up the spy agency. Dale Hurd has the story.
Congressional leaders met with the president at the White House Thursday, clearly concerned that the NSA domestic spying program and the secret federal court FISA that oversees the NSA have both spun out of control, with new revelations that the government can see virtually everything Americans do on the internet, Facebook, and email.
In the years since September 11th, Congress has repeatedly expanded the scope of FISA, and we must carefully consider now whether those laws may have gone too far.
And new limitations on the intelligence efforts appear increasingly likely, with lawmakers from both sides of the aisle offering new legislation.
I'm introducing a bill to address this, to fix this.
Foreign policy expert Dr. Paul Bonicelli.
At the end of the day, the Congress can oversee this. They can stop things, start things. And I think you're finding more and more congressmen, particularly Democrats, that are really have a problem with the administration, their own administration, about it.
The man at the center of it all, NSA leaker Edward Snowden, has been granted political asylum for 1 year in Russia. The White House was furious.
Mr. Snowden is not a whistleblower. He is accused of leaking classified information and has been charged with 3 felony counts.
Giving Snowden asylum does damage to an already strained relationship with the U.S. Some lawmakers are calling for a boycott of the 2014 Winter Olympics hosted by Russia. President Obama is scheduled to attend a summit in Russia next month. It's now unclear if he'll go, but if he does, Snowden is almost sure to be a topic of conversation. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
The U.S. is closing embassies throughout the Middle East this Sunday due to a, quote, credible terror threat. Embassies in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Egypt are among those closing as a precaution. This is the first mass closure of U.S. outposts since the first anniversary of 9/11. Intelligence officials suspect Islamic jihadists may be plotting an attack. The move comes nearly a year after the deadly attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi that killed the U.S. ambassador there and 3 Americans. No word on how long the installations will be closed. But dozens of people working for the CIA were on the ground the night of that Benghazi attack. That report from CNN, and it says the CIA is taking extraordinary measures to make sure no one finds out what those people were doing. Some of the CIA operatives involved in Libya have had to take lie detector tests once a month. They normally take them once every 3 or 4 years. The goal is to see if they've been talking to the media or to Congress. Congress continues to investigate the Benghazi attack. They believe, Pat, that the administration is engaged in a cover-up.
Well, Lee, what we're asking is, what are they trying to cover up? What were they doing? I mean, it's Libya, for heaven's sakes. What were they trying to cover up, and why do they want to keep it from the American people? What were they doing? So they had CIA guys over there. So what? I mean, it was a falling, failed regime, and in transition, we have every right to protect our interests. So what are they trying to hide? And are they trying to hide the fact that they allowed the ambassador and others to get killed by the ineptitude, and they want to force these CIA agents not to talk to Congress? I hope and pray there's somebody in Congress that has enough intestinal fortitude to demand answers and to hold people accountable. As it is now, it's a slap on the wrist, and somebody says, well, you got a letter in your personnel file and you won't get a bonus next year. Big deal. Lee?
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are concerned about privacy issues in the new health care law. Obamacare's health insurance exchanges are supposed to be up and running October 1st. The application process requires the IRS to share personal information with other agencies to enroll people in the program. Not a popular idea, especially after the way IRS officials targeted conservative groups before last year's election.
This data hub, is a hacker's dream, but I don't know who I most fear, someone from the outside hacking the information or the way our government handles it. Why should we trust the IRS to protect our taxpayer information under Obamacare?
We share information roughly with 300 different federal and state agencies as a matter of routine business. And we have procedures and safeguards in place to protect that information.
Democrats say these Obamacare hearings are politically motivated, but Republicans say the IRS Tea Party scandal was real, and they're worried about the IRS overseeing the Affordable Care Act.
This hearing is really the culmination of months of a careful buildup. The majority has been crafting a scandal narrative to support their truly relentless agenda to appeal the Affordable Care Act.
No matter what our colleagues try to say to whisk this issue away, the government was intimidating people and targeting them based upon their political views. That's not phony, that's real.
The hearings come before what's expected to be the 40th vote in the House to repeal Obamacare. CBN News will have a special report on the IRS as well as Obamacare next week. Well, the bull market in stocks keeps hitting new highs. The Dow Jones Industrials and the S&P 500 have set new records, along with the Russell Index for small stocks. Analysts say the pace of the economic recovery is still slow, but it's good enough for businesses to improve their earnings and encourage investors to place money back into the market. Many advisors say the market will keep climbing for the foreseeable future. Pat, what do you think?
I think stocks follow money. The money comes from the Federal Reserve. The so-called QE2 and 3 and however many other stimulus packages there are. If you're buying $85 billion a month of federal securities, you're sloshing a lot of money into the economy. And therefore, the stock market will go up. But the stock market's rise is not based on reality. The corporations are not doing all that well. And the uncertainty of all the regulations that are being heaped upon business will cause a slowdown. 1.7% rise in GDP isn't exactly earth-shattering. And I think anybody who would look at past recoveries understands that this is very anemic, and the businesses are scared to death of what the Obama people are going to do to the economy. And so this is strictly a phenomenon based on money, and when the Fed withdraws the punch bowl, as they say, the party's going to come to a crashing halt, and it will be very sudden and very painful and very, very pervasive.
The Army and Air Force Exchange Service will remove sexually explicit magazines from their store shelves. The group Morality in Media calls it a great victory in its effort to stop sexual exploitation in the military. As we have reported, the group asked Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel to stop the sale of the magazines. Military.com reports Army and Air Force Exchange Service officials say they're pulling porn magazines because of poor sales. But Morality in Media Executive Director Dawn Hawkins said hopefully the other exchanges will follow suit, or Secretary Hagel will order their removal from all bases. Operation Blessing offering aid to the South Sudanese refugees now. The ongoing conflict in Khartoum and Darfur has forced families there to flee their homes in search of safety. OB partnered with the Rumbek Catholic Diocese to distribute 25,000 pounds of food that included beans, rice flour, and other relief supplies. And you can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to its website at ob.org.